doorway twitched. His jaw worked once. Then he exhaled a faint whisper, not in his own voice, but in hers, thin and dragged through something wet. No, it was wrong in the way a recording played through a dying speaker is wrong. Not human, but close enough to make your skin revolt. Jules's hand flew to her mouth. Her torch beam slipped, skittering across shelves, lighting the shed's clutter in frantic fragments. Mia didn't wait. She fired. The flare gun kicked, loud as a gunshot in the cramped shed. The flare screamed out into the night, a bright, furious red that painted the yard and the trees in bleeding light. The man flinched hard, eyes squeezing shut. For a split second, his control broke. He recoiled like the light hurt him, like it stabbed straight into his skull. He raised both hands, palms out, not to shield his face but to block sound, as though the flare's hiss was worse than its blaze. Mia lunged forward and slammed her shoulder into the door, using the flare's disruption as leverage. The door struck the man's body with a dull impact. He stumbled back, feet scraping on gravel. "Move," Mia hissed. They burst out together into the yard that now looked like a crime scene under the flare's glow, rust, rain, and red light. The hanging shape in the fence wasn't a pig. It was a person, or what had been one, caught by the torso in the wire, head lolling. The eyes were open and tracking, not pleading, not vacant. Listening, the flare arced overhead, trailing sparks, and lodged somewhere in the wet grass with a violent hiss. Steam rose in white coils. Jules ran to the Uda without being told. Tom followed half a step behind, but his gaze kept snagging on the man Mia had shoved aside. He didn't chase like an animal. He didn't lunge. He watched them run, head tilted, shoulders loose, like a cat waiting for the right moment. Behind him, in the red-lit trees, other shapes shifted, barely visible, but there. Several. Too many. Mia grabbed the Uda's driver door, yanked it open, and half threw herself in. Jules was already in the back, scrambling over gear to make space. Tom reached the passenger side and froze, staring past the hood. "Mia," he whispered, and the way he said her name this time wasn't fear. It was horror. Mia followed his line of sight. The flare's red light had illuminated the fence line. Hanging bodies. Not one. 3. Maybe 4, tangled in chain link and wire as if someone had tried to climb out. Or in. Their faces were turned toward the yard, mouths shut, eyes shining. Listening point, one of them opened its mouth in a slow, deliberate movement, as if remembering a forgotten muscle. From it came a sound so small Mia almost missed it. A child's giggle. Not a laugh, not a scream. A giggle, clipped and bright, like it had been plucked from a memory and replayed without context. Jules made a strangled sound in the back seat. "Don't," she whispered. To no one that the giggle stopped. A beat of silence. Then, from the trees, another giggle answered. Then another. The chorus spread, disjointed and wrong, echoing through wet leaves and metal. Mia slammed her keys into the ignition. The engine turned over once, twice, then caught with a roar that felt like an announcement. The infected reacted immediately, not to the movement, but to the sound. Heads lifted across the yard. Bodies angled toward them. The man near the shed snapped his gaze to the Uda, eyes narrowing as if the engine note carried meaning. Mia stomped the accelerator. Gravel sprayed. The Uda lurched forward, fishtailed, then straightened as she forced it toward the open gate. The man moved then, not sprinting, not flailing, but cutting across their path with sudden, efficient speed. He wasn't trying to stop the Uda. He was trying to get close enough to be heard. The Uda surged past. He turned his head toward the open passenger window and whispered, clear as a knife point, Tom. Tom flinched like the word had touched him. Mia swore and swung the wheel. The Uda clipped a rusted metal bin, sending it skidding. The sound rang out, sharp, metallic. Every head in the yard snapped toward it. A ripple of attention, like a school of fish turning. They hit the gate. It was half open, hanging crooked on one hinge. Mia forced the Uda through, metal screeching against metal as the side mirror scraped. Out on the narrow service road, the rainforest pressed in on both sides. The road was a black ribbon, slick with moisture, bordered by ferns and tree trunks that seemed too close. Mia kept the speed up, tires hissing on wet gravel. Her hands were white on the wheel. She didn't look in the mirror at first because she didn't want to confirm what she already knew. Tom looked anyway. They're following. How many? Jules asked from the back, voice shaking. Tom swallowed. I can't. He leaned closer to the rear window. At least 5, maybe more. They're not running like people. Mia risked a glance in the rear view. Shapes moved between trees, parallel to the road, not in a clumsy chase, but in a coordinated drift. Sometimes one would cut closer to the road, then fall back, like a swimmer testing current. They weren't trying to catch the Uda outright. They were guiding it. Why aren't they just charging? Jules whispered that Mia's mouth was dry. They're listening. Ahead, the road curved toward the railway line. The old Coranda track ran like a scar through the rainforest, and the tunnels, 3 of them, punched through the hills. Mia's plan had been to reach Tunnel 2, the one with the maintenance alcove and the old service door. Stone, narrow entry, a place where noise could be controlled if noise could be controlled, that a new sound crept into the night. Faint at first, then clearer as they drove, that a single syllable repeated softly. Mia, Mia, Mia. It drifted through the trees, not from one throat, but several, staggered so it overlapped itself. It sounded like a radio trying to tune. Jules rocked forward, eyes wide. They're saying your name. Mia didn't answer. She focused on the road, on the way the moonlight caught wet leaves, on the smell of soil and petrol, and fear that Tom's voice came tight. How do they know? How do they make sense? Mia said, hating how calm her words sounded. If it's in the brain first. Speech, memory, they pick up words, echo them. She didn't mention the other things she'd read in a half-downloaded emergency bulletin before the network died. Mimicry escalating with exposure, becoming more targeted, more strategic. They reached the railway crossing. The service road intersected the track at a shallow angle. Mia didn't slow much. The Uda bounced over the rails, suspension groaning on the other side. The old maintenance access path led toward the tunnels. 2 ruts, grass in between, slick mud. The forest here grew thicker, darker, as if it leaned in to watch. The air changed too, cooler, damp with stone. Then Mia saw the obstruction that a fallen tree lay across the path ahead. Thick trunk, branches tangled. It hadn't been there last week. Rain could bring trees down, sure, but this looked placed. Dragged up, Mia's gut tightened. She hit the brakes anyway, because plowing into it at speed would kill them faster than anything in the trees. The Uda skidded and stopped with a jolt. Jules banged her shoulder on the seat. Tom grabbed the dash, swearing under his breath. The rainforest answered with silence. The insects paused. Even the frogs seemed to hush. Mia stared at the tree. Then, faintly, from somewhere near the tunnels, came a new sound, one she hadn't heard before. A whistle. Not a human whistle, not casual. A precise, three-note pattern, like a signal used by workers. Mia's mouth went cold. That's the old track call. Tom looked at her. What does it mean? It means there's a train coming, Mia said, though she knew no trains ran now. Not passenger ones. Not in the first week of whatever this was. The whistle came again, closer. Jules whispered, "There's no train." Mia forced herself to breathe quietly. She looked left and right, searching the tree line. Nothing obvious. Too much shadow. The whispering name stopped. Then, from just beyond the fallen trunk, a figure stepped into the path that a woman, drenched, hair hanging in ropes. She held her hands out slightly, palms visible, the universal gesture for harmless. Her mouth opened. "Please," she said, and the voice was perfectly human. Mia's heart lurched. For a second, instinct surged. Help her, pull her in, don't leave someone in the dark. Then Mia noticed the woman's eyes. They weren't wide with fear. They were focused, unblinking, tracking the Uda's cabin like she could see through glass into their thoughts. And behind her, in the shadow of the tunnel mouth, more shapes stood absolutely still, lined along the stone like they were part of the wall. The woman took a step closer, slow, measured, as if she knew exactly how far she could move without triggering flight. "Tom," she said softly, and it wasn't her voice anymore. It was his mother's, or someone close enough to twist his face with recognition. Tom's breath hitched. His hand went to the door handle. Mia snapped, "Tom, don't." But Tom was already leaning forward, eyes wet, caught in the trap of familiarity. "How?" The woman smiled with lips that didn't quite understand smiling. Then she whispered, with Mia's voice. No, the whistle sounded again, right beside them now. Sharp, piercing, impossibly close. Jules screamed before she could stop herself. The scream. Every shape in the tunnel mouth moved, not running, pouring forward in sudden coordination like a net being thrown. Mia slammed the Uda into reverse. The tires spun in mud. The engine roared. The woman lunged, faster than her calm suggested, hands slapping the hood. Tom shouted. Jules sobbed. The whistle shrieked again, from the trees behind them now, corralling Mia's reverse caught. The Uda lurched backward, fishtailing. The woman lost her grip and rolled off the hood, but she didn't fall like a normal person. She twisted mid-roll, caught herself, came up already moving. The fallen tree blocked their retreat path too. Behind them, the track crossing and the narrow ruts. If the infected closed in from both sides, Mia, Jules screamed, pointing. Shapes were emerging from the trees behind them, cutting off the way back. They weren't chasing. They were sealing. Mia's mind flashed through options. None were good. Stone tunnels ahead full of them. Forest behind full of them. The Uda stuck in mud. Engine loud enough to paint a target on their backs. Tom's hand finally dropped away from the door handle, horror replacing whatever spell had grabbed him. "They're hurting us," he rasped. Mia looked at the tunnel mouth, at the figures moving like a tide, at the woman still coming, eyes fixed, mouth closed now as if saving words. The flare gun was empty. The metho was useless at this range. The forest seemed to lean closer, listening. And then, from inside the tunnel, a voice came, clear, calm, and possibly normal. Mia. It wasn't a whisper. It wasn't dragged. It sounded like someone standing a few meters away, speaking gently in the dark. Mia's blood ran cold because she knew that voice. It was her own. The voice came again from the tunnel, closer this time. "Mia, it's okay." It wasn't warped. It wasn't dragged or broken. It carried her cadence perfectly. The slight rise at the end, the softness she used when trying to calm someone. It was her